Canada. 1.
Canada is a country of diverse landscapes, industries, and people. Located in the northern part of the North American continent, Canada has oceans on 3 sides. It faces the Atlantic Ocean in the east and the Pacific Ocean in the west. In the north, Canada faces the cold waters of the Arctic Ocean. It has the longest coastline of any country in the world. In the south, Canada shares a border with the United States, which is 8,891 kilometers long. The country's total area is 9,984,670 square kilometers. But it is not one piece of land. In fact, more than 52,000 islands contribute to Canada's size. Canada's islands have been categorized into major and minor islands. Major islands have a total land size that is larger than 130 square kilometers. Minor islands are those considered smaller than that. There are a total of 146 major islands, but not all are lived on. Actually, very few of the islands in Canada have people living on them. One major reason for this is that more than 36,500 of these islands are in the far north. The area is known as the Canadian Arctic Archipelago. It has one of the world's coldest and most severe environments. The area is mostly home to polar bears, seals, and other wildlife. However, a small number of people live in various places in the southern parts of this region. Canada's landscape is made up of large flat plains, high mountain ranges, rivers, and lakes. The highest peak is Mount Logan. It is part of the St. Elias Mountains in the Yukon Territory. A geographical area known as the Canadian Shield is home to some of the world's oldest rocks. Some date back as far as 4.5 billion years ago. There are also thousands of freshwater lakes found in the area of the Canadian Shield. They were formed many centuries ago by the weight of ancient glaciers. As the glaciers slowly moved, they created depressions in the rock, which filled with water over time. Canada is thought to have around 50% of the world's lakes. These lakes are also thought to contain one of the world's largest supplies of renewable fresh water. Canada's climate changes from one extreme to another across the country. In the south, they have hot summers that are humid in some areas. There is also low rainfall and cold winters. In the north and northwest, they have very cold winters and short, cool summers. Even in the summer months, the temperatures in these areas only average around 17 degrees Celsius. People living there also have to deal with almost 24 hours of sunshine during part of the summer. Except for people living in the southern part of British Columbia, one climate fact unites most Canadians. They all face average temperatures of below freezing and continuous snow in winter. With these conditions and varying landscapes in mind, it is easy to understand why around 75% of Canada's population lives within 160 kilometers of the U.S. border. When you consider that Canada's total population is about 33 million, you can imagine how crowded some of the cities must be. However, when you compare Canada's total size to its actual population, it is one of the least populated countries in the world. Today, Canada is separated into 10 provinces and 3 territories, but it took a long time to develop into its modern state. The Indigenous people of Canada are thought to have been some of the first to live there. They have been there for thousands of years. These Indigenous groups are the Inuit people and the different groups of Native Indians. These groups of Native Indians are now referred to as First Nations. The first Europeans to arrive in Canada are thought to have been Vikings. Evidence of a settlement in Newfoundland, dating from the 10th century, has been found. Then, in 1497, an Italian navigator, known as John Cabot in English, arrived. He sailed from Bristol in England to the east coast of what we now call Canada. It wasn't until the early 17th century, though, that both Britain and France established colonies in Canada and settlement began. The first of these were in the areas known today as Quebec, Newfoundland, and Labrador. These two powerful countries fought many wars with each other in order to gain total control of Canada. France lost many of these battles and eventually handed over power of most of its settlements to Britain. As the different settlements within Canada grew, a more formal and local system of government was established. This, of course, was based on the systems used in Britain, with the power remaining in the hands of the British government. One of the early developments that led to modern-day Canada was in 1840. The British government passed a law that united Upper and Lower Canada into the Province of Canada. Upper Canada was mostly English-speaking, and Lower Canada was mostly French-speaking. The Province of Canada was later separated into the provinces of Ontario and Quebec. The next major development occurred on July 1, 1867, when the British government passed a new law that established Canada as a Dominion. The official name given was the Dominion of Canada. This meant that Canada became a self-governing colony with its own parliament and provincial assemblies. New tax systems and laws could now be created in Canada. However, the final authority was still the British government, because all new legislation had to be approved by them. The first 4 provinces to join under this law were Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. Many more changes occurred over the years as Canada moved toward complete independence. In 1931, a new law by the British Parliament stated that all the dominions of the British Empire were no longer colonies. The word Dominion was removed from Canada's official name, and more power was given to the Canadian government. Some people saw this new law as the birth of a nation. What it actually meant was that Canada no longer had to get official approval for new legislation from the British government. It also meant British laws no longer applied in Canada. However, the final step toward complete independence for Canada did not come for another 51 years.